Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bettina and I'm the makeup enthusiast. In today's video, I am bringing you my update on Project Level Up. I'm so excited to be filming this update. I'm so ready for this update. So if you want to see my update on my Project Level Up, I'm currently working on my Be Perfect Stacey Marie Carnival 3 Love Tahiti palette. If you want to see my update, stay tuned. But before we get into the video, if you are new around here and you love watching project panning videos, specifically eyeshadow project panning videos, make sure you're subscribed down below so you can get notified when this project goes live and my pan those eyeshadows go live. And without further ado, let's jump on into the update. Project Level Up. This was my palette that I was working on for level 1. For those of you that don't know what Project Level Up is, it's a way of panning eyeshadows. It was started by Sofie Alexandra. Forgot her name there for a second. Started by Sofie, and the whole idea of this project is to identify an eyeshadow palette in your collection. Out of that eyeshadow palette for level 1, for example, you need to use every eyeshadow in the palette at least once, and you need to hit pan on one eyeshadow. Once you do that, you move on up to level 2. For level 2, you need to use every color in the palette at least twice, and then you need to hit pan on 2 shadows, and so on, until you decide that you're a quitter and you want to go back to level 1. So I very unluckily got this palette for level 1. Some of you said that I was lucky. I still feel like I was a little bit unlucky, but I'm really glad that I got to pick one of the largest palettes in my collection for level 1 rather than having it rotated in for like level 5, for example. So let's get into it. Level 1, I did manage to hit pan on a shadow. I will show you like the close-ups in a minute. And I guess the palette overall is looking a lot more used and abused, which is kind of like the whole idea of this palette, or the whole idea of this project. So as you can see, I hit pan on this color here being, I believe it's called Rum. Yes, this color here, Rum. Hit pan on that one. And as you can see, I don't know whether it's going to show up, but the rest of the palette is looking a lot more used, which is very exciting to see. There were a lot of shadows in this palette that I used more than once. I didn't track that though, because it's such a large palette. I just found it too difficult to track. So basically what I did to track my progress was I drew like a bit of a, I don't know, battleship kind of dealio, and I put an X against the pan every time I used it. So when I used it once, I put a little X in that pan. Once I decided which eyeshadow I wanted to pan, I started tracking the amount of uses on that one particular pan. So Rum, I hit pan on Rum after 15 uses. I feel like I used it more than that, but it sounds about that. I do feel like I used it a lot more than 15 times, but that's fairly close to how many times I used it. And then the rest, as I said, I was using a lot of these like brown colors quite a lot. When I was wearing Rum on the lid as the shimmer, I'd reach for those mattes quite a lot. So I did get a lot of use out of this palette. If I get a smaller palette, or in future when I get smaller palettes, I will track like the usages on all of the other shadows in the palette. But just because this one was so big, I was already overwhelmed by how large the palette was, let alone tracking every single use on every single pan. So I'm happy with just the way I did it this time. But that means this is rolling out and going back in my collection. I'm actually really happy that I have a pan in one of this is my second largest palette in my collection. So I'm very happy to have a pan in this one. I'm going to pop this one back next to its little sister and next to its big sister. If I can actually, I think I've added extra shadows to the shelf, or extra eyeshadow palettes back to the shelf. So now it doesn't just slot right back in really nicely. But to move on to level 4, we are moving on up to level 2. So I am going to randomly generate a new eyeshadow palette. I will get a random number generator up on my phone. I'm really hoping that I can get a smaller palette this time. I really want a smaller palette to work on. so it's not so daunting. So I have 151 eyeshadow palettes to choose from, and let's cross your fingers and toes and pray to the panning gods that I get a small palette. Let's see what we get. Okay, we have number 34. Hopefully it's not one that I already have pans on as well, because I am trying to work on, oh, actually it is a good palette. Well, not a good palette, but it's a small palette. It is a 9-pan palette. So number 34 on my inventory is the Viseart Triced palette. And I actually think that I might be reasonably close to hitting pan on some of the shadows in that palette. So let me go get that palette and I will be back in a jiffy. So the Viseart Triced palette, I did get this in a Beautylish Lucky bag a couple of years ago. So I think I've previously done a video where I did like 10 looks or something, or a week of looks using this palette. So I will leave that linked up in the corner, I guess, if I can find it. But looking at the palette, there are a few shadows that already have like some wear on the pan. So I think that maybe it won't be super easy to hit pan, but I think like I've already got a good groundwork going. Given that I only need to use every shadow twice and then hit pan on 2, oh my gosh, this is like a dream compared to a like 40 pan eyeshadow palette. So I wouldn't mind betting though. I'm just throwing it out there, already gonna put my predictions. I probably will end up focusing on these 2 to hit pan. That's just my vibe, my feels so far. This is the Triced palette. It is like a pinky tone palette. Like it's got a few colors in there that I don't love wearing all the time, but I can definitely incorporate them in with other shadows that I have in my collection. I think I'm gonna find it very easy to hit the 2 uses on each pan in this palette. Might take me a little bit longer to hit pan, but I think the 2 uses I'll like fly through it like that. So this is my palette that's coming in for level 2 of my project Level Up. I'm very excited to move on to a smaller palette. I feel so relieved. So I will update you when I've completed the goal. I think that's the way that I'm going to do this project. I'll just come back and update once I've completed the goal, unless it's dragging on for an eternity. But it's only been like 2 months since the intro, so I'll feel it out still and let you know how I'm going, but I'll probably see you again for this project once I've hit my goal. So that is that one, and that is it for this update. Now, I will say I'm going to try and track all the uses on this palette, because I probably will use some of these more than 2 times, like other than the ones that I want to hit pan on. I'll probably use the rest of the palette more than 2 times. So I am going to try and at least track all of the uses on this palette this time. Let's hope that I can stick to that. But I am excited to work on this palette. I'm excited that it's a smaller palette. It's going to be a lot easier for me to get through this one a lot quicker. Let me know down in the comments how you're going on your eyeshadow panning this year. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new around here and you want to keep up to date on all my project pans that I'm doing this year. That's it for this video, beautiful. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you are staying safe, healthy, and looking after yourself. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, beautiful.